You wouldn't believe it if you saw her today, not because of the inevitable wrinkles or the passing of time, but because the woman who once stopped the world with a single leg cross has become someone even more compelling than the symbol Hollywood once worshipped. There was a moment in the early 92nd when Sharon Stone was more than just a name. She was a phenomenon, the ice-cold stare, the fearless presence, the impossible beauty wrapped in danger. She wasn't just playing femme fatales. She was rewriting what it meant to be powerful on screen. She didn't flirt with controversy. She owned it. She controlled it. She weaponized it. But what happens when the fantasy begins to fade? When the applause quiets? When Hollywood, so quick to worship beauty, begins to look the other way? Sharon Stone's story is not simply about fame. It is about survival in a system designed to discard. Today, she walks red carpets, not with seduction, but with serenity. She speaks not to provoke, but to reflect. Her journey is a map of scars, comebacks, missteps, and private wars. She has faced strokes, career exile, public humiliation, and personal betrayal. Yet through all of it, Sharon Stone has found something far more elusive than fame. She has found peace. So how did the woman once crowned the most dangerous blonde in Hollywood become its quiet survivor? And why does her story still haunt the industry that tried to forget her? Before Sharon Stone became the storm that shook the 90s, she was simply a small-town girl from Meadville, Pennsylvania, with a mind far sharper than anyone expected. She was reading by the age of 3 and graduated high school at 15. Though beauty became her calling card, it was her intellect that quietly guided every step. The industry saw her as just another pretty face, but Sharon always knew she was meant for more. She started small, appearing in brief roles that offered little more than screen time. Her early career was filled with forgettable moments, minor characters, and near invisibility. Casting agents and directors pegged her as the model-turned-actress, a label that clung to her no matter how hard she tried to prove otherwise. She was hired to decorate scenes, not command them, until a role in a science fiction blockbuster changed everything. In 1990, Sharon starred opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. It was her first real moment in the spotlight. Her character was cold, manipulative, and mysterious. She brought something sharp to the screen, something that made people lean in. It was not just about appearance anymore. People started asking who this woman really was. Then came Basic Instinct in 1992. With one scene, one icy stare, and one unforgettable moment, Sharon Stone became a global sensation. Catherine Tramell was not just sexy. She was brilliant, terrifying, untouchable. Sharon played her with a mix of danger and control that the world had rarely seen before. The performance was not simply provocative, it was dominant. Suddenly, she was everywhere. Magazine covers, late-night interviews, headlines. She became the conversation. She became the image. Hollywood fell in love with her mystique. She was the blonde with bite, the beauty who refused to be boxed in. But with that fame came scrutiny, and behind the adoration was always suspicion. Was she just a flash in the pan or a true talent? Was she manipulating the media or simply surviving it? Critics debated her legitimacy while the public devoured her image. Women admired her poise. Men obsessed over her presence. And Sharon, always smarter than people gave her credit for, used the moment to claim space for herself. She sought out more layered roles. In 1995, her portrayal of Ginger in Casino stunned both fans and skeptics. Ginger was chaotic, tragic, deeply human. It earned Sharon an Academy Award nomination and reminded the world that her talents ran far deeper than physical appeal. She could lead a film, break a heart, and haunt an audience all in the same breath. But Sharon was never content to play the game quietly. She spoke out in interviews. She questioned the system. She rejected the idea that women should fade with age or beauty. She pushed back on the industry that tried to define her by a single scene, and for a while, it seemed like she might rewrite the rules. Still, the machine of Hollywood has its own rhythm. Time passed. Roles became scarcer. Praise turned to silence. In an industry obsessed with youth and reinvention, Sharon began to feel the edges of a spotlight slipping away. It did not happen all at once. The transformation began quietly, almost imperceptibly. One year there were headlines. The next year, whispers. One film led to a nomination. The next, to forgettable reviews. For Sharon Stone, the shift from center stage to the margins was not the result of scandal or failure. It was the slow, cruel fade reserved for women who dare to age in Hollywood. By the early 2000s, roles had become fewer. Scripts were no longer built around her. Casting calls favored younger versions of the same character she had once defined. The phone rang less. The meetings were shorter. Sharon herself would later say that once she turned 40, she stopped being invited to the party. It was not a punishment. It was a pattern, and she knew it all too well. Then came the stroke. In 2001, Sharon suffered a massive brain hemorrhage that nearly ended her life. 9 days of bleeding, a survival rate of 1%. The woman the world once watched with awe was now relearning how to walk, talk, and think. It was not just her career that was on the line. It was everything. Recovery was not fast. It was not clean. She lost custody of her child. She lost friends. She lost the ability to trust her own body. Hollywood, ever obsessed with perfection, quietly moved on. Her health battle, though terrifying, was not glamorous. It did not fit the narrative. And for years, Sharon disappeared from the headlines. But she never stopped fighting. Through the pain, she rebuilt. She chose smaller roles, independent films, appearances that often flew under the radar. She learned to live differently, more slowly, more honestly. She spoke out about the stroke, about the loneliness, about the industry's silence. In interviews, she no longer played the vixen. She became the survivor. She also began to challenge the structures that once celebrated her. She criticized the way Hollywood discarded women. She talked openly about sexual harassment, long before it was fashionable to do so. She revealed how a director once told her to sleep with a co-star so they would have better on-screen chemistry. She spoke of betrayal, of exploitation, of being treated like a product. And yet, she never became bitter. Instead, Sharon Stone chose reinvention. She leaned into art, into motherhood, into activism. She worked with AIDS foundations, stood up for LGBTQ rights, and used her voice for causes far removed from the red carpet. She accepted that the industry that once crowned her would never fully embrace her return, and she made peace with that. Every so often, she would return to the screen. A cameo here, a short role there. Each time, she brought something new, something real. The sharp edges of youth had softened, but the strength had only grown. Sharon Stone was no longer the fantasy. She was the reality. A woman shaped by survival. A woman unwilling to disappear. Today, Sharon Stone carries herself with a kind of grace that comes only after weathering the storm. The sharp cheekbones are still there. The unmistakable voice still cuts through a room, but her presence now is quieter, more reflective, less about commanding attention, and more about sharing space. She no longer needs to prove anything. She appears on red carpets not to reclaim fame, but to support causes and celebrate art. When she speaks, people lean in, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. There is a difference. Sharon Stone is not selling a performance anymore. She is living her truth, and that truth is often uncomfortable, deeply personal, and completely unfiltered. She has shared openly about the brain damage she continues to navigate. She has spoken about memory loss, about the way her body feels different, about the relationships that fractured during her illness. She tells these stories not to seek pity but to offer perspective. The woman who once embodied control now embraces vulnerability as her greatest strength. She no longer chases roles, she chooses them. From dramatic turns in small films to unexpected appearances in television series, Sharon brings a depth that cannot be faked. Each character is layered with the weight of her own journey. She understands brokenness, she understands silence, and she channels it into her craft. Her work in recent years has drawn praise for its maturity, not because she plays older women, but because she plays real women. Women with history, women with flaws, women who have lived. Audiences may not recognize the glamorous star of the 90s, but what they see now is something richer. She has also found peace in being a mother. Her children, adopted during different phases of her life, are her anchor. She often speaks of them with emotion, describing them as her purpose, her grounding force, the real reason she fought so hard to survive. Sharon is also an advocate now. She speaks on panels about healthcare. She campaigns for women's rights. She confronts ageism with clarity and force. There is no longer a need to soften her words or fit into a mold. She has become what Hollywood fears most and needs most at the same time. A woman who sees it clearly and says it anyway. In one interview, when asked if she misses the old days, she smiled and said she misses the woman who did not know what she knows now, but she would never want to go back. There is something haunting in that honesty, the kind of wisdom that only comes after losing almost everything. This is Sharon Stone now, not the femme fatale, not the scandal, not the survivor, just Sharon. And in her quiet reinvention, she has found a place that fame could never offer. She has found herself. It is easy to remember Sharon Stone as the woman who turned a simple chair into a weapon of seduction, as the icy genius who played mind games with detectives and captivated audiences without saying a word. That image is unforgettable. But the truth of who she has become is far more powerful than the roles that made her famous. She has aged in a way that Hollywood does not often allow, not with endless reinvention or desperate rebranding, but with acceptance. She has let time leave its mark on her face, her voice, her energy, without apology. And in doing so, she has redefined what it means to grow older in the public eye. Artistically, she may not be at the center of the industry anymore, but what she brings to her performances now is something that only time can offer. Experience, pain, reflection. She no longer plays women trying to prove their worth. She plays women who know exactly who they are, even if the world does not. Emotionally, Sharon Stone is perhaps stronger than ever. Her willingness to talk about the darkest chapters of her life has given other women permission to do the same. She has turned private pain into public wisdom, not as a branding strategy, but as a human act. She does not chase empathy. She earns it. Publicly, she remains a puzzle. To some, she is still the sex symbol frozen in time. To others, she is the outspoken activist, the bold survivor, the woman who refused to fade. But to those who have truly followed her story, Sharon Stone is something else entirely. She is a reminder that resilience is not always loud, that comebacks do not always involve awards, and that dignity can be found in stillness as much as in spotlight. Her journey reveals a lot about the system she once ruled. Hollywood loves its muses, but fears their evolution. It builds stars and then questions them when they seek to grow. Sharon Stone challenged that. She paid for it. And she emerged, changed, but not broken. Is she more herself now than she was then? Absolutely. The woman behind the eyes has stepped forward, not hidden behind lighting, not edited into perfection, but revealed in full. Her story is not one of decline. It is one of transformation. And as for whether we prefer her then or now, maybe the better question is this: why do we so often cling to the image instead of embracing the person behind it? There is something about Sharon Stone that lingers, not just in memory, not just in the films that made her famous, but in the quiet moments when we think about what it means to survive beauty, fame, and time. Her legacy is not locked in a single scene or a single decade. It moves, just like she has, through stages of fire, silence, and grace. We remember the way she walked into a room like she owned it, the way she dared the camera to look closer, the way her characters played with power without apology. But now, we also remember the woman who sat across from journalists and spoke about losing everything, about holding her child's hand during recovery, about waking up every day to a body that does not feel the same, about continuing anyway. Time has changed her. Time has changed us. And that is the point. Hollywood, in its glittering cruelty, taught us to see stars as static, frozen, untouchable. But Sharon Stone shattered that illusion. She aged, she spoke, she faltered, she endured. And in doing so, she offered something far more valuable than fantasy. She gave us a real story. Somewhere in the film reels of the 90s, she will always be the icy queen in white, crossing her legs and making the world gasp. But in the quiet spaces of today, she is also the woman who tells the truth, who carries her scars like medals, who no longer needs to be adored to be complete. We carry both Sharons with us, the icon and the survivor, the storm and the stillness. And maybe that is the greatest gift she has given. A reminder that behind every myth is a woman, a real one, complicated, brave, human. And if you close your eyes, you can still hear her laugh echo through the years, fearless as ever, untouched by time,